All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and for being patient. We are experiencing a little bit of technical issues getting the screen to share for the presentation, but we did want to go ahead and get started. And, there we go. We're going to go live on Facebook. Oh. All right. James, I went ahead and we are live because Facebook was going to kick us out, but I am working on getting Facebook up and going again.
Okay.
I need to create a new broadcast for Facebook. Let's do.
Hi, everybody.
Try creating a new broadcast. Okay, we're just gonna.
It says that they can see. That's true.
All right. Oh, did we? I think we may have made a little error. I want to. We'll just change this to sometime. Nope. Okay. Nope. Cancel. Sorry, everyone. We have some people watching on YouTube, and thank you for joining us, but I am trying to work to make it go live on Facebook. Because we did have some technical difficulty, and now we are having more. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do... Nope, I can't because we need to go live on Facebook. All right. Oh, I can remove and then re-add. There we go. Yes, remove, and now we're going to re-add. Fantastic. Okay. All right, now we are live on Facebook. All right, fantastic. First off, thank you everyone for joining us and for your patience on getting this started. This is Left Bank Books welcomes Missouri native and children's book author James Solheim, who will discuss the stories behind the world's most delicious, nutritious, and amazing foods, from the Stone Age to the future, and Eat Your Woolly Mammoths. 2 million years of the world's most amazing food facts from the Stone Age to the future. Left Bank Books is St. Louis's oldest independent bookstore. We would like to thank all of our supporters, the supporters of James, and everyone for their outpouring of love for our bookstore. Left Bank Books offers in-store shopping, curbside pickup, and delivery to anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. We are happy to be able to bring our event series virtual. We believe that events are a way to expand your mind and bring in new thoughts to make the world a better place. We hope that you enjoy this event, and we hope that you support Left Bank Books by purchasing a signed copy for you or for your friends on our website, left-bank.com. And I will share a direct link to purchase this new book from Left Bank Books. And James has been so kind to send signed book plates to Left Bank Books from Omaha all the way to St. Louis, so we are offering signed copies in that fashion. Purchasing a book from Left Bank Books allows us to keep our bookstore and staff operating, and it allows us to keep bringing you such incredible authors like James. So thank you so much for your support. I am Shane Mullen. I'm the events coordinator for Left Bank Books. We produce hundreds of author events each year with a fantastic team here in St. Louis. We will be taking questions from you, the audience, at the end of the event, so you can type your questions as a comment, and you can do that at any point in time. And if you are joining and a Maryville alum, much like James and myself, be sure to type that up in the comments too. We are super curious who is joining us today. And be sure to follow Left Bank Books on Facebook and YouTube to be notified about all of our fantastic virtual events. about today's book. Eat Your Woolly Mammoths, 2 million years of the world's most amazing food facts, from the Stone Age to the future. Food, glorious food. If there's one thing that transcends time, it's our love for food. But what did people generations ago consume, and what will we eat in the years ahead? James Solheim's Eat Your Woolly Mammoths serves up the stories behind the world's most delicious, nutritious, and amazing foods, from the Stone Age to the future. For readers who love the fascinating facts that bring history to life, let the feast begin. Would you like a plate of woolly mammoth, or perhaps a sample of fresh tuna eyeballs? From scorpions on sticks and llama salami to oysters and chocolate chip cookies, you'll travel through the centuries and around the world and discover the amazing foods that have been eaten and enjoyed throughout history. Eat Your Woolly Mammoths explores the history of food and is full of fun, digestible facts that young historians, cooks, and scientists will gobble up. An accessible, educational, and funny text combined with laugh-out-loud illustrations will make this ideal pick for independent readers and snackers everywhere. A great choice for readers who munched through Ripley's Believe It or Not, Fun Facts and Silly Stories, and the National Geographic Kids' Weird But True books. It includes sidebars, fun facts, recipes, additional resources, and much more. And it is not even officially out yet, but there are copies on the way to the bookstore now, and we will be able to sell them to you ahead of the pub date, which is fantastic. So the original pub date was supposed to be on, I believe, Tuesday, but we are selling copies as soon as we have them in our store. James Solheim is the author of It's Disgusting and We Ate It, illustrated by Eric Brace, Grandmas Are Greater Than Great, illustrated by Derek Desierto, and many others. Powered as a child by his grandma's Norwegian cooking, lefse and sandbakkels and søtsuppe, who knows if I got that right? We'll have James say that. Potato tortillas, sugar cookies, and sweet soup. He now speaks Norwegian with his own kids and continues his family's traditions. But his grandma's kindness is his biggest family tradition of all. And he lives in Nebraska, where he is joining us from today. And without further ado, I would love it if you would help me welcome our guest for the afternoon, James Solheim for Left Bank Books. If you could give him a giant round of applause. Hi, James.
Hello. Well, here's the book.
Yay.
I actually have copies. I just got them like 2 days ago, maybe. So I didn't even see this until a couple of days ago. It was just some pictures on my computer, words that I wrote in my computer, and then suddenly there they were, and I have an actual physical book now. Well, I'm going to see if I can share screen. See if we were having trouble getting it to share. So if I put that up now, does it actually work?
Right now, I think we're looking at maybe email.
Okay.
So,
let's see. Well, I'll go back to this again. Well, I'll talk while I try to figure out how to get it to show up. So anyway, when I was a kid back in Maryville in 3rd grade, there was another kid in our school that told me that people had found frozen woolly mammoths, and they still had their fur and their flesh and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, I don't know if I believe that. I'm just gonna go on and do some other stuff like play in the yard instead of researching it. But I always knew that was this really wild fact, and I should just someday find out if it was true or not. And so when I got old enough to be publishing some books, I thought, that would be a great fact to put in a book. And when I started looking into it, I found it was even wilder than that, because one of the scientists who found some frozen woolly mammoths, and there are actually lots of them that they found, he couldn't resist. So he cut off a little part and tasted it. It was frozen, like you put meat in the freezer so it doesn't go bad. But this little woolly mammoth, it was in the freezer for like 30,000 plus years. So he took a taste of it, and He didn't think it tasted very good. I think it had freezer burn maybe or something. But he was really glad that he tried it anyway. And people are doing a lot of research now to find out what woolly mammoths' lives were like, and how they're related to living creatures and why they're extinct. And some people really want to bring woolly mammoths back to life again out of extinction. There are scientists that are trying to make it so woolly mammoths will live again, and there are people that want to sell woolly mammoth meat in the grocery store. So you might actually be eating some woolly mammoth burgers, instead of say Burger King, there might be Burger Mammoth or something like that someday in the future. So I just decided, hey, if there's woolly mammoths, what else is out there? I went and I found out that people have found chewing gum from prehistoric times. People chewed their gum, and like kids today might leave it on the sidewalk, but please don't do that. They might have left their chewing gum out on the out in the front of the cave, and the mom might have said, Junior Og, you're not supposed to leave your chewing gum out in front of the cave. People are going to step on it. So the kid went and threw it away. And then thousands of years later, some scientists have found prehistoric chewing gum, and it actually has the tooth marks on it, so you can tell how old the kids were, because you lose your teeth and then you grow in your adult teeth. So they can tell that it's their baby teeth or their younger teeth. They can see cavities and things like that. And it's just something that people dug around and found in the dirt, basically, and then scientists were able to evaluate it. I'm going to try the share screen again too, because I have all these pictures from the book ready to go. So I'm going to do a stop screen. I'm going to do a share screen. Look at the tips here. And it says, I hit share. And let's see what it lets me do this time. Okay, I think it's going to work this time. Did it work?
Oh, I think it does. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, if you want to go into presentation mode, it should work just fine from here.
So now, does it show just the cover, or does it show the cover plus my little thing off to the side?
It shows the procession of slides over to the side. But if you,
so I'm going to show it. I'm going to show it in a different view here. I'm going to go back to the view that I want you to see, and that is, I think that's what you want to see, right?
No, that's still.
Is it?
Not
anyway,
quite.
Do you see the cover of the book? And that's the main thing.
Yeah. Try going just to the next slide and see what.
Okay.
Or if you, there should be up at the top like a presentation mode.
Yeah.
In the PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's what I was in. I was in presentation mode when I started. Here's presentation mode.
Well, it's on the second slide now, so.
Okay. So can you all see the second slide, even if you're seeing, do you see the words click to add notes?
No.
Okay, good. So this is good enough. Is it big enough that you can all see what the pictures look like?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, what I decided to do was to go and get actual photographs and art from history, and then make my own artistic creations by putting my own cartoons, you might say, in with real photographs and paintings of Shakespeare and things like that, for example. So here, on one part of the page here, we have a famous painting of William Shakespeare, and in his time, they used to like eel pie, and they sometimes ate rat pie. And so I got a photograph of an eel, photograph of a rat, took this painting of Shakespeare, got some photographs of eyes, put the eyes in, put some green goop on his head, and then we have Shakespeare eating eels and rats out of his pie. And that was the concept for the book, is to make everything in the book completely factual, but the art is going to be how a child would imagine it. So over on the other side, we have a woolly mammoth that looks nervous, obviously, because the book is called Eat Your Woolly Mammoths. He doesn't want to be in this book. He's on top of a Jell-O treat from the 20th century, when there was a lot of Jell-O creativity going on, if you want to call it that. And then some other pictures in this opening scene here are a tarantula that's kind of made into a s'more with a graham cracker and some marshmallow sticking out the sides. There's a squid, because we all love to eat squid ink, of course. And then there's a giant water bug wearing a striped skirt standing on the tarantula s'more. Now, here's the kind of thing that I did in the book. So this is an actual photograph of a baby woolly mammoth that they found in Russia. Can you see this very clearly, that it has fur and it looks like a real mammoth?
Yes.
Okay, so I took this actual mammoth and I got permission from a scientist that was the photographer of this and who uncovered this woolly mammoth. And I got a photograph that was in an ad in the Saturday Evening Post, and I put the two together. So we have a mom offering a child in the 1950s a yummy treat for the day, and that is woolly mammoth. And the tray that it's on is actually from our own kitchen here. And the mom's hand is something that I drew to add on to her, so she could have like a little gesture as she's offering the food to the kid who's really getting into it as he eats his first taste of woolly mammoth for the day. Now this page is actual gum that they found.
I don't think it actually is moving to the next page.
Okay, I'll try a different thing then. Now is it there?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still on the Shakespeare page.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
So you never saw the woolly mammoth either?
Oh, well, we can see the woolly mammoth next to Shakespeare.
Okay. So you didn't see the one where she was, where the mom was serving the woolly mammoth?
No.
Okay. So I'm gonna try
now we're on
the gum.
Bubble gum. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to show you the mom with the woolly mammoth now. There. Do you see the mom with the woolly mammoth?
No. It's still on the bubble gum. Okay. Oh, there we go. Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to show you the screens as if you're running the PowerPoint presentation now. So there's the mom. So do y'all see the mom from the Saturday Evening Post serving a woolly mammoth to her child?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. And now do you see actual gum that was found?
Yes. Now we see the gum. Yeah. Ew.
Really.
You can see the teeth impressions almost.
Right. It's not almost. You actually can see the teeth impressions. So it's I'll read the text from this page to you so you can know more about this. Used chewing gum speckles the planet. Scientists have found many wads that are thousands of years old with tooth prints so defined you can see the chewer's cavities. Most of the clearest prints came from children between the ages of 5 and 15. A child's first set of teeth are different from adult teeth, so it's possible to identify some gum chewers as 6 or younger. Scientists could tell from DNA molecules in the gum what the chewers ate, and even some details of what they looked like. And that's why I drew this picture here. It's not that they actually had really skinny feet that pointed in different directions. That's my cartoon imagination here. But they looked at the DNA that they found in some gum that was 5,700 years old from Denmark. And they found out that from the DNA in this girl that she had dark hair, dark skin, blue eyes, and she ate eels and duck meat. So that was all just from the gum on the lower right over there. So if you can see the lower right grayish gum there, a girl who was probably the gum was found in Denmark is what they know. So she had blue eyes, dark skin. So I'm making a picture here that's based on what they knew about her. And then the one on the and the one on the lower left, about 5,000 years old, discovered by a student helping scientists dig for prehistoric artifacts in Finland. So this was discovered by a student helper at a archaeological dig. And the one on the top is gum chewed about 10,000 years ago in Sweden by a boy around 12 to 14 years old. So go ahead.
I have a question on this. So how many times do you think we picked up a stone and thought it was a stone, but it could have actually been fossilized gum?
Well, maybe more often than we think, because these were all found in Scandinavia, which is the countries of Sweden, Finland, Denmark, where they chewed certain types of things that were basically birch bark tar. Like this sounds really yummy, doesn't it? So they went to birch trees and got the sap out of a birch tree and kind of congealed it into tar and then chewed it for gum. Yummy, yummy. But in America, they've chewed things like strands from yucca plants and used those for gum. And they actually have found 2,000-year-old, essentially gum in the United States with the DNA in it, and they could figure out what those people were like that were chewing their gum. So you could be walking around in Arizona or something, in the United States, see a little gnawed-looking ball of strands, and it actually could be gum from somebody 2,000 years ago. And then if you gave it to the right person, they could find out who it was related to, because they could do a DNA analysis of the spit in it, because they can figure out who you're related to based on your spit, as you know from if you've done any of those ancestry.com things. So they can actually take the spit out of prehistoric gum and find out things like who the people were related to and what they looked like, what their eye color was, and all kinds of things like that. So we stereotypically think we know what Scandinavian people look like, for example, and yet that's not what their gum showed. And so people are different throughout the ages than we think they are, and we may be related to people that we don't realize we're related to. In fact, everybody's related to everybody else on Earth, and we've figured out things like that by having scientists examine the DNA in chewing gum, and mathematicians have figured out how closely related we are to each other, to the extent that everybody on Earth is descended from one person who lived 2,000 years ago or a little more, probably in China. So whether you're of European, African, Native American background, or whatever you are, you have some DNA in you that comes from China, basically 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. So anyway, back to the next thing in the book here. That's Alexander the Great doing war against who? I don't know. It's kind of bubblegum in the background. So this is mastic, which they used for chewing gum, and this is an actual piece of mastic that I got a photograph of from somebody named Jumana Akkad, because all these pictures I have in here, I had to get permission from scientists and things like that to use their photos. So pictures of prehistoric chewing gum or pictures of mastic that people use in certain parts of the Mediterranean for gum. It's really interesting how, even though I had Alexander the Great spitting a giant gob of it just for fun, that's probably about the same size as his head. Here's what's amazing to me and that I put into the book. In the book it says, mastic gum from the Greek island of Chios, so valued that Chios turned its towns into forts to fend off pirates. So that's the caption on this picture in my book. So there was an island that they had to defend so strongly that they turned it back practically into a fort just because people wanted to come in and get the chewing gum out of there, basically. So Alexander the Great here, he's, if you don't already know about him, he's a warrior and self-proclaimed emperor. And here's one of his early air attacks with a paper airplane. Hey, more amazing stuff. They found a 250,000-year-old stone knife that they used to cut up a rhinoceros, and it had rhinoceros blood in it. So this top picture here is the actual knife that I contacted the scientist named April Noel. She said I could use this picture in the book. So they did lab tests and found out that it was rhinoceros blood. So here's the text on this. I'll read a little bit of the text instead of just talking off the top of my head. The idea seemed impossible, but it worked. Scientists led by human origins expert April Noel tasted stone knives for traces of prehistoric meat and found it. After 250,000 years buried in the desert of Jordan, 3 knives still had blood in their cracks. Lab tests looking for rhinoceros proteins proved it was rhino blood. Other stone tools nearby had been used on meat from horses, camels, ducks, wild cattle, and elephants. And if you buy the book, you'll get to see that this rhino knife is actual size in the book. And just so you can see what it is compared to some other food that you're more familiar with, I put it above a Twinkie here. So the text about the Twinkie says, in 1976, a class at George Stevens Academy in Maine saved a Twinkie to see how long it would last. Now it is the world's oldest. Let's survive as long as rhino blood on a stone blade. So at George Stevens Academy in Maine, they have this Twinkie. It's still there. It's on display as one of the treasured historical items from their school. It's been there since 1976 when a class wanted to see how long it would last. So this Twinkie, if you get this book, you can see that it has gray dust along the top of the Twinkie, and it's dried out to where its little pores are now larger, you might say. And I wrote an email to the principal at the school, and she said, yes, I'll take a picture of our Twinkie for you. And she sent me this picture of her Twinkie. And now the world gets to see the world's oldest Twinkie. Well, some of the pictures in my book are just my own drawings. I drew a picture of of a cave mom and kid. The mom is coming back from the store. She's got her grocery bags. You know, in prehistoric eras, of course, they didn't have plastic grocery bags, so she's carrying her food in her stone grocery bag. And there's a lizard with a bone sticking its hand out, and a a giant earthworm, giant prehistoric earthworm, and then there's a fanged eyeball in her grocery bag. And then her kid next to her is whistling innocently while he's sneaking an octopus out of the mom's bag when she's not looking. Well, he's whistling. You know, there's rock music above the top there because I went out and took some photographs of rocks in our yard. And I put them on the musical staff so that this boy would be whistling some nice tune. And I looked for rocks that were in certain shapes so that he would be whistling shape note music, which is a kind of music where people look at the music written in shapes so they can learn the tune before they actually try to sing it. So this is shape note music from prehistoric times because it's made out of the shapes of rocks. Over on the right there, we have a bottled shark head, and the steam is coming out. I took the eyes out of a Rembrandt self-portrait and put them on the steam. So the steam looks upset about smelling so bad as he comes out of this bottled shark's general vicinity. And then there's a wonderful insect larva up there that sees something that's really gross, a cheese curl, I think they're called. You know, some insects have really nutritious kinds of larvae, and they're really healthy. So that guy's kind of dismayed that somebody would eat a cheese curl. Back to this music that I was telling you about. I've written some music too, in addition to writing books. So here's a little round that I wrote. You can all do a screenshot of this, and then if you have any cows that need to learn some music because they don't have access to, let's say, music lessons, you can print this out and show it to some of your local cows. It's a round for cows to sing. It goes, it's all moos and moomity moos, so that they can definitely be able to sing it without having to speak English. I've written quite a bit of this kind of music called shape note music. So the notes are written in shapes so the cows can learn how to sing the notes before they actually try to sing the tune. And that way they don't have to read music either. Let's see, here we have ancient vegetables. Now, wait a minute, those are modern vegetables, but they're all descended from the same ancient vegetables because cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, kale, they're all descended from the same type of prehistoric plant that still exists today. But I'll read the text to you here. Ancient farmers developed broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, and kale, all from one type of plant, flowering wild mustard. So I went to the store and took photographs at Hy-Vee of broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage. Took my little camera and furtively photographed the vegetables when the workers at the store weren't looking. And then I drew a little book there, drew kind of a frankenweed back there that's supposedly their prehistoric flowering wild mustard. And then the little baby cauliflower says, "This book is scary." And then Grandpa Cabbage says, "Don't worry, Grandpa was a weed too, and he never hurt a pea." Well, how did I make the art for this? The broccoli's hair is actually Jackie Onassis's hair, Jackie Kennedy. The mustache is Buffalo Bill's mustache. So I got historic photographs and put them onto these vegetables. The grandpa's eyebrows are cabbage worms, or they're the larvae of they're the babies of cabbage moths, basically. This is a famous not prehistoric. It's a famous ancient Greek athlete. He's the first great Olympic star. So the theme in my book at this point is we've moved on into ancient history from prehistory. So this is one of 2 pages about ancient Greece. It's called Milo's Olympian Diet. This is about Milo of Croton. He was ancient Greece's first megastar in athletics, and myths developed about him. For example, he supposedly ate. This was his technique for becoming a great athlete. He supposedly ate 18 pounds of meat daily, 18 pounds of bread daily, drank 2.5 gallons of wine daily. He supposedly ate stones found in rooster gizzards. And his workout was to carry a growing bull every day for 4 years and then eat the whole bull in 1 day. And bulls back then were smaller, but they still were at least 600 pounds. And so this is Milo, the great athlete from ancient Greece, eating this poor little cow that he ate in 1 day after carrying it for 4 4 years. Definitely don't try Milo of Croton's workout system. On the page across from that, we have the Spartan diet, because the Spartans, they were an ancient Greek people. I'll read that to you. The Spartans were warriors who stayed tough with extreme workouts and a punishing diet. Their dinners centered around black soup made from a pig's blood, and according to one ancient writer, every part of its body. But don't worry if that sounds grim. Reportedly, Spartans could vary the recipe using frogs, horses, goats, and other animals. And then I wrote down kind of a general principle of how the Spartans stayed tough. So their eating philosophy was eat just enough to keep you tough. And then principle number 2 was when your leader isn't looking, eat like Milo of Croton. So here's how I did the art for these. So there was a statue on that page that you just saw of a boy who'd been turned to stone. He has 3 little red birds on his leg. I drew that by hand using Prismacolor pencils, colored pencils. Medusa there has snakes for hair. I drew her using colored pencils, put her in an actual Greek pot down there when I first drew it, which is a picture of a mythical creature pushing somebody on a swing. And then off to the right there, I drew a Spartan soldier, and I drew him with his shadow beneath, trying to get away from him because he's scared of being a Spartan soldier's shadow. Go back to the page that these characters are in. You can see that how they fit into the page, but I actually drew those things separately, and then I put them into an actual photograph of Sparta, what it looks like today, which is this city from Greece that's now in ruins. Here's another thing that artists sometimes have to do. I made a tuna casserole, and then I put the discus thrower into the tuna casserole and had him hurl some pizza for this photograph. This is actual tuna casserole that I made, and I smoothed it out to look very photogenic. And then I had my daughter Jenny hold it in the sunshine very carefully while I photographed my tuna casserole from many different angles until I got just the right angle. And then I got a picture of the discus thrower, this famous statue, and I stuck him down just in the right position behind that noodle there so that his arm would stick up so that he could fling a pizza. This is the Middle Ages. It's supposed to be England in the Middle Ages. It's a king from England, and he has cut open a blackbird pie, and you can see the blackbird sticking his eyes out, and he says, "It's 24 against 1, buddy. I dare you to come in and take us on." because it's 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie, of course. And the king is thinking, I sure hope kings get to eat cupcakes or I'm getting a new job, because 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie is an actual thing from the Middle Ages. It's not just a nursery rhyme. To make this photograph, I went to the Joslin Art Museum in Omaha and took pictures of the floor, the wall, and the ceiling. I went to the Saint Cecilia Cathedral and took a photograph of the door. And I merged those all together with Photoshop and put my own drawings in front of that, together with a still life artwork. And then the piano inside that pie, maybe you can't see this, but if you get the book, you'll see that there's a piano inside the pie. That's our piano at home here. So our home piano is in there with a blackbird and a lamp baked into a pie, because that's where he lives. He's baked into a pie, and he's got to have something to do, like play the piano. Here's what the whole page spread looks like. It's 2 pages. Together, they're called a page spread. So on the left, we have the scene that I was talking about. On the right, we have the Sing a Song of Sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. When the pie was opened, the birds began to sing. Wasn't that a dainty dish to set before the king? And then above that is a recipe, how to make a joke pie full of live birds, because they actually made in Europe in the Middle Ages pies with live birds inside, but the birds were not being burnt or cooked, because the recipe says, first make a pie crust with a hole in the bottom. Fill it with flour to hold up the top crust. Add the top crust and bake. Empty the flour out through the hole and stick live birds inside. When cutting open the pie, let the birds fly out. Then serve real pies so the guests won't feel cheated. So that's a real recipe from 1559 that I went and translated into English so that it could be in the book. If you have any questions, you can place them in Facebook. Is that right, Shane?
Yeah, if you have questions and you're watching, which I know you are, you can type them up in a comment on either the Facebook or the YouTube, and we will have time for that in just a moment.
Yeah, I'll just show you a few more pages from the book, and then you can ask questions, and then you can buy the book for yourself, because it's probably not showing very well, especially since my share screen is only sharing my presentation instead of the actual thing that you're supposed to see. So can you see here the not colored in artwork for that page that I just showed you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is what it looked like when I showed my editor at HarperCollins the proposed art for this page. So a king, a pie with a bird peeking out. George Washington is down in the right-hand corner because I mentioned cow noses down there, and they were in George Washington's recipe book, because George Washington really ate food that was in the tradition that came straight from medieval England. And so some of these recipes were what Martha Washington had in her more than one recipe book, actually, that I looked at when I was researching this book. And so you can find out some of the lovely things that Martha Washington served to her husband when you get this book. I'll just show you 2 more things really quickly. This is a page spread called Jell-O Free for All, because Jell-O is basically something that was only invented at the beginning of the 20th century. Up until then, gelatin, or it's called Jell-O now because it's a brand name, but gelatin was a fancy food that only kings and queens and noble people got to eat. And we have Jell-O today because this guy named Peter Cooper invented quick gelatin, so people could make it kind of quickly. And then somebody later named Pearl Waite and his wife Maywait together invented an even quicker way that they named Jell-O, and that's where the name Jell-O came from. And I decided to take various wild Jell-O recipes and have a Jell-O battle between these characters on these 2 pages. So I took early 20th century baseball cards and put the faces of the Jell-O inventors on the left side of the page. There's a more close-up look at one of the, so that's the guy that invented instant gelatin right there. He's throwing a Jell-O concoction or creation at the people on the other side. And I got those from opera and ballet cards, promotional cards from the 19th century. And I had those, they're basically people that were playing fairies in operas, and I gave them little Jell-O treats for them to hurl at the guys on the other page. And then there's a close-up of one of them. This is a photograph, a fake pineapple made of Jell-O, olives, mayo, and liver sausage. That's what the pineapple is there. And then below that is a sculpture made of liver, canned green beans, and artificial sweetener whipped into Jell-O, a recipe from 1974. A really nice person named Ruth Clark provided these, some of these Jell-O pictures. She runs a thing called, or she was running a blog called Mid-Century Menu, where she would try these crazy recipes from basically the 20th century and see how they turned out. So she made this one here of the yellow and green flat looking one at the top right there, made of salmon, peas, and cucumbers and lemon Jell-O. The baseball playing guy at the lower left, he's showing you, showing us Spam, prunes, olives, and peas Jell-O recipe. The guy in the middle is throwing spaghetti and wieners in Jell-O at us. So I went and found the craziest Jell-O recipes that I could and put photographs of them in the book. Teddy Roosevelt is eating perfection salad, because if you lived through the so-called 20th century that ended about 22 years ago, you probably had some experiences with wildly creative Jell-O. And that started with perfection salad, which was a recipe that finished high in a contest in 1904. And it caught on until people decided that, oh, you know, oh, cabbage and carrots in Jell-O. Well, that's fantastic. I'm just going to start making my own wild stuff. And they started putting in liver and salmon, and before long, wild stuff in Jell-O, almost anything you could name was going to be a recipe. And that probably in the 1950s, this fad of crazy Jell-O was at its peak. And unfortunately now it's really hard to find liver Jell-O. I drew a frog in Jell-O here to say goodbye to us here, but it's not quite goodbye because I want to show you some of the future of food here. This wonderful scientist for NASA invented food that you can use for rocket parts. So he said to himself, when we go into outer space, we need to have food, and we can't bring food with us in large quantities. So let's just make it so we can eat the shells and things like that in the rocket. And so I made a picture here out of, it's a pretend picture of the scientist. He's eating a rocket made out of a Muffy from the St. Louis bread company, also known as Panera. Little old Neil Armstrong is in there looking out through a television. And I put this whole rocket together with like parts of a toy airplane, screws, and some other things. And on the right, we have an astronaut on the moon who's using some of the things that people have to use for recycling when they're in outer space. So start thinking of your questions.
Well, I want to start with, so when I hear the date 1904 and I think about food especially, I connect it to the St. Louis World's Fair. Was Perfection Salad somehow connected to the St. Louis World's Fair, or was that not good enough for the St. Louis World's Fair?
Well, I don't think it was the St. Louis World's Fair, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was something connected to that, because we think of today as the only time that things go viral, because we have the internet and stuff like that. But believe it or not, things weren't quite as fast back then, but things were kind of like slow viral. And that's kind of what happened with Perfection Salad, because it was just a contest, like a local contest. Some people shared the recipe. It got put in some newspapers. The newspapers went nationwide, like the internet does now, and people tried that recipe across the nation based on what they saw in the newspaper. And so somebody easily could have said at the St. Louis World's Fair, wow, Perfection Salad, let's start throwing some liver in it or something. And so it really took off kind of quickly to where people were putting all kinds of crazy stuff in it, which to me doesn't sound very good in the first place. I mean, why are you putting cabbage and carrots in Jell-O and thinking that's like this wonderful thing? But if I put myself back in the past again, imagine myself as a kid who's never seen Jell-O before. Wow, that is like, it's like some amazing thing that you can't believe, and you get to eat it. Wow. If you've never seen that before, it is something that would go viral, and it would become something that the whole world would want to eat. And now we're kind of jaded in that we think that, well, Jell-O, that's just an everyday weird thing. But a lot of things were connected to St. Louis, though. Uh-oh. Can you see that?
Oh, sorry, I stopped sharing your screen. Sorry. There we go.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget that St. Louis is in my book too.
Oh, yay.
So can you read this, everybody? Cow brain sandwich. That's not what a cow brain sandwich really looked like. So again, I made these pictures in the book. Sometimes I took real photographs of things. Sometimes I made up my own wild versions. So I went and got a medical textbook from over 100 years ago, kind of made it a little tan looking, and it's a brain from this old medical textbook. I put it into a sandwich from my own refrigerator, had my daughter Jenny hold it up, photographed it from many angles and many different types of lighting. In the background, I took a picture of handprints on the sidewalk here in Omaha, made little castle turrets out of pictures of the sidewalk, went to the parking lot at Home Depot where they spilled some sand and took photographs of the sand. And I assembled all these into a photograph for the book. And so that's what I now have as a caption, cow brain sandwich. And I say that it was wolfed down in St. Louis from 1800s to modern times, because there were people still eating cow brain sandwiches pretty recently in modern times. Probably, hey Shane, do you know anything about how recently that was still a St. Louis classic?
I feel like it was still being served at the Macy's counter, wasn't it? Until it closed.
It was pretty recently. I lived in St. Louis, and in the 90s, and I never saw any places that were offering cow brain sandwiches. But they, on the local independent radio station, they had a show called, they had a show that was named after the classic St. Louis brain sandwich on KDHX, the station that played a lot of folk music and independent music. And they would often mention that I think maybe there was still one restaurant left that served cow brain sandwiches at that time in the 90s, but it was something that was definitely more popular decades before that.
I feel like there has to be like dozens of places still in Missouri that serve cow brain sandwich. Like I feel like that's not something that I feel like I've seen it somewhere, maybe as a special.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yes. Well, I live in Omaha now, and so I put a lot of photographs in the book that are actually ones that I went and took myself of Omaha, like the Jocelyn Art Museum. There's a big rock in there that's at the University of Nebraska Omaha campus. I just went over there, hopped out of my car, took pictures of it. I went and took photographs of snowbanks across the street from Paddock Road Elementary. Took pictures of I went out biking on the bike trail near the creek near 90th and Center, and took photographs of that. And they're in the book too. So you can see lots of Omaha in the book. You can get a little taste of St. Louis in the book. You can actually see things from outer space and all over the country. Like there's that photograph of the world's oldest Twinkie that's in Maine. There's the prehistoric woolly mammoth that's from Russia. Classic statues from ancient Greece. So I really covered the world in finding material just to put in this one little 48-page book. And it took me a long time to make art for a 48-page book, which sounds easy, but it actually takes a very long time. It's like having to make, it's really 50 because there's the end papers and then there's the cover too. So it's 50 plus really artworks to make this book happen. And it all started with me. I'll let you go back to non-sharing after I share this. This is a book that's made in Maryville when I was a kid.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions?
Just Sharon says thank you for sharing your book with us, and I had one more question of your last couple of books have been working with an illustrator, so I'm wondering if you liked this process of getting to have full creative control, or if it is much easier to work with someone else when it comes to like putting together such a large idea of a book.
Well, I actually loved drawing and painting when I was a kid. I even painted a giant lizard on my bedroom wall when I was in high school. But at some point I had to kind of restrict myself to one thing. And so I vowed, okay, I'm going to be a writer. I'm not going to try to illustrate my own books. But when this book came around, I knew what they were thinking of for an illustrator, and I knew what style they were thinking of. And I thought, I really want to resist spending all this time on something that I'm not specializing in. But I felt like I could do a good job in a style that I had a vision for. And I sent them a proposal thinking, oh no, they're not going to accept this because I'm not a professional artist. And I was actually extremely surprised when they said yes. And then I had to learn a lot basically to make it happen, because I didn't know a lot of the things that a professional artist would know. But it was really a fantastic experience to be able to contact all these people around the world and have them cheerfully send photographs of prehistoric gum and woolly mammoths, and then put that into my artwork, and then draw cartoons just like when I was in 5th grade, making cartoons. And so it was a great experience, but very unexpected for me. And I think I've already done a sequel to this that's also my own art. So it's not published yet because the publication process is time consuming, but I just finished the art for the sequel a week or so ago. So there is going to be a sequel with my own art. And after that, I'm planning on having other people illustrate my books, because I feel that I was destined to do this one. It was in my style, but I have a wide variety of writing styles that would help, that would be helped by other artists.
Yeah. I mean, I know, especially because I gifted Grandmas Are Greater Than Great to several people, that like Derek's illustration style is so gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
But like completely unique and different from yours. So each book needs to have its own feel. And this book, I have not seen your book yet, so I've not seen my eyes on it. But it feels like this illustration style really fits the quirkiness and the fun and the kind of imagination of this book. So I feel like you made a really great choice, and I am so happy that we are able to celebrate this book with you.
Well, thanks a lot for inviting me. And it's just, you have a great store. So everybody in St. Louis, go to Left Bank Books. When I lived there, it was my store that I went and shopped at and went to book signings at and stuff like that. It's fantastic, and it's been there for, is it more than 50 years now?
Yeah, 53.
Yeah. So if you're visiting St. Louis, go to Euclid Street in the Central West End and shop at Left Bank Books, and you'll meet Shane, hopefully. Yeah. Great guy.
And even if you aren't in St. Louis and you want a beautiful signed copy of this book, I did share the link for how you can get a copy of the book from Left Bank Books. We mail anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world even. So James was so kind to sign book plates, so we were able to offer signed copies to be mailed out anywhere in the world. And you can get those at Left Bank Books. All right. Well, James, it was such a pleasure being able to host you again. You're one of the few authors that I've hosted more than once during the course of the pandemic. So I'm thrilled to get to do this again. Hopefully next time we will be able to be in person.
Yes.
But I can promise that we will still do a virtual aspect. So everyone watching from afar, all of our fellow Maryville alums can watch wherever they are as well.
Yep. Say hi to your relatives they were in my class.
I will. All right. To everyone watching, thank you so much for coming today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.